The seatbelt sign has now been switched on for landing. Please make sure your seatbelt and the seatbelt of infants and children travelling with you is now fastened.
Hey everybody, Matt here. As you've just seen, I've just got back from New Zealand and it was a pretty cool trip. And I wanted to give you a bit of an update on where I'm at, how I'm going through this process of figuring out what's next, so that maybe you can kind of apply it to your own lives, and also share a little bit about my experience in business, specifically with starting an agency, around what I would do differently if I could have that time again. So the first thing is, I've got here in my little journal, I wanted to give you an update on kind of where I'm at. So since we last spoke, I've determined a number of criteria which I want to use to evaluate the next opportunity. So if I decide to maybe work for somebody else, if I decide to start a new business, if I decide to partner with somebody else, what vertical would that be in? Would it be launching a product, launching a service? How do we kind of make these decisions? And so using my own experience and speaking to a number of people that are much smarter than I am and much more experienced, I've come up with a bit of a list. And so there's kind of 4 or 5 key criteria. One of the biggest things for me that's really emerged is, that feeling when you really get lost in a project or you're doing something where time just kind of slips away. That feeling where you kind of are really happy being stuck in the middle of it. I love that. So that's kind of one of the things I'm looking for: a project, a business, a service, something where I can kind of dedicate my time to it, whether it's working with other people or whatever that may be, where I really just feel lost in that experience. I think that's such a great feeling to have, and I didn't have that before at my last business. So that's one of the biggest things I'm seeking. The next thing is something that's fun. I got back from a trip from Melbourne recently and worked with some great people, and I think I mentioned before, it was so much fun. Honestly, it was so much fun, and I want to try and recreate as much of that feeling as possible. And for me, I get that from working with other people. So people that are smarter than I am, people that are better at what they do. My next step needs to involve some great people. All of this might sound very obvious, but to me, it's a useful criteria to use to assess different opportunities. The third thing I've got here is in a growth market or growth segment of the market. So I need to believe that if it's a product or a service or an existing business, it's in a market where it's not just got great growth potential, it's got exceptional growth potential. And I think that's important because even if you do an okay job, you still win. You still end up growing with the market. There's still more demand from customers. There's still more opportunities that come from it. So broad categories like artificial intelligence are interesting. Broad consumer categories are pretty interesting. I think there's a lot in there, but really picking a market or a segment of the market where there's growth, I think is pretty important. The fourth thing I've got here is timing. So is it the right time to be launching this product or service, this particular venture? I think the more founders that I speak to, the more entrepreneurs that I'm kind of reaching out to and kind of having conversations with, timing is such a funny thing. A lot of founders will attribute their success to luck. Obviously, you need to have hard work, but you do need to get a little bit lucky along the way. And in my experience, I think timing plays a really big part of that. So why do I believe now is the right time? And then finally, the fifth part is skill set. So the skill set that I have in marketing, operations, and business, how does that fit into what I want to do next? So I think not only that, but actually taking some time to really think about what is it that makes me me, which is a tough question to answer, but actually really going deep on that and trying to figure out what are the things that I really feel like I'm very good at, and making sure I can fit that into a role that's going to give me these other things that I need, but also makes the most of my skill set. So to kind of recap on those, it's that feeling of being lost in it, fun with great people, really high performing people, but fun, growth market category, timing, and fit for skill set. Those are the kind of the 5 key criteria. As I work through different opportunities, I'll share these with you, and we can try and figure out what's the right one. I'm off to Sydney, so recording this on Thursday. I'm off to Sydney next Monday to speak with a number of different people about differing opportunities. So this is kind of how I'll be applying the framework to those opportunities, and hopefully something comes from that. Cool, so that's the update there. I also had as I've been kind of going back and reflecting on, the last agency business, what I would have done differently, I wanted to share 2 specific things. The first was around mindset for growing a business overall, what I would have done differently. And the second thing is around some specific things to growing an agency or a service-based business generally. The first one I had was around mindset. So when I reflected on the last kind of 6 years in growing Gallant Way, I really feel like one of the things that caused me a lot of anxiety and stress was becoming really fixated on how do we get to the specific outcome. So whether that's $3 million in revenue or whatever that may be, oftentimes it's a financial target. You need to have those. But I think what I did is I became very attached to trying to do everything I could to meet that target. And that became quite difficult when we didn't meet that target, or maybe we fell just fractionally. Say we got to 99% of our target. Because it's a binary target about achieving it, you actually end up feeling pretty shitty. So, and the more people I speak to, especially high performing individuals, whether they're sports people or other entrepreneurs, you can kind of see the trend where they fall in love with the process because they're kind of doing the thing that they're great at. So for me, one of the biggest learnings here on mindset is really adopting a mindset where I'm happy to fall in love with the process of achieving what I want to do. As long as I'm in love with the process of building what it is, I know that I'm going to be satisfied with whatever outcome takes place. We'll still set the targets, we'll still be very ambitious about what we're trying to achieve, but I really want to, in what I do next, fall in love with the process, fall in love with building it. And I think that's something that, I've learned and I think would benefit a lot of people. Especially if they're getting a little bit caught up in the anxiety of, I'm not where I need to be or whatever that is. Falling in love with the process is one thing I had in my notes. And finally, I wanted to share a little bit about what I would have done differently if I had launched an agency, or if I launched an agency tomorrow, or any type of service business. I read a book called Traction by Gino Wickman about 4 years into launching the company. I'll drop a link here somewhere. And it was recommended to me as I was going through, as we were trying to grow the business. We had new team members coming on, we had challenges in delivery of our service, things weren't getting done at the right standard or the right time frame. And this book, Traction, was hugely valuable, and I went absolutely wild on it. But basically, it talks about building an operating system or a process for, or a system for your business. And that's what really elevates a business owner from working on the business, from working in the business to working on the business. So by working on the system of how you make money and deliver work, that's where you can really create leverage. That's where really you can start to unbundle your time from your earning potential. And so to give you some kind of concrete examples, what we did is we created a Google Sheet with 200, I think I went crazy, but 250 processes across the business. Everything from how to log a timesheet, how to respond to a client email, what's expected of your role, how do we measure sales targets, how do I access my leave, how do I run an ad, how do I analyze performance, how do I speak to clients, how do I deliver a presentation. Literally everything I tried to in terms of the way that we delivered work, from the moment somebody comes into the office to the moment they leave, and from the moment a client starts working with us to the moment they finish or they exit or they move on to something else. I wanted a process for every little component part as much as possible. And we started with obviously the biggest ones, how do we write a monthly presentation and deliver it in whatever way. What we would do is we'd write that in a process, in a document, basically just a Google Doc. Ideally include a checklist, include a video of myself explaining how to do it, and then some really clear examples of what good looks like, what bad looks like. So that anyone kind of seeing that could understand, okay, cool, this is what we need to deliver, this is how we want it done, this is what good looks like, and this is how it should be delivered. For service-based businesses, this was completely game-changing for our business. So I went from being able to, spend a little bit of time with everybody to being able to spend more time with the team, to be able to spend more time on new business, to be able to spend more time on our clients, on strategy and these other things that I wanted to, because we created this layer of service, of systems, which created leverage for the team to kind of have more knowledge about how to do things, and also to be able to do them in a way which had very clear expectations. Because I think sometimes what I think good looks like is very different to what other people think good looks like. And without a standard of what that is, that's clearly communicatable and that everyone can refer back to, you don't really get that. So implementing a system into the business, like Traction's example, was hugely beneficial for Gallantway and the agency business. It made the team easier to work with. It made the team's job easier because they knew what they needed to do. And all it was is a Google Sheet with a bunch of links that went out, that was kind of characterized and searchable, that everybody could click on. Everybody would see. It was company-wide, and it had links to individual docs where, the clear part of what we needed to do, the job to be done, was laid out there. So if I had my time again, that's one of the most important things I would implement from day one. And as the cool thing about a system like that is, as the business grows, as your customers, add more customers, you add more team members, you'll see new problems. So that's really cool because you can take that new problem and then you can build a process and a system for it, and then you can improve on that system over time. Otherwise, what happens is, you might have new team members come in, you might have team members go, and a new problem will come in and a problem might disappear, but then it might come back again. If you've got a system and a process for dealing with it, then you're kind of always learning. It's like a little living organism, a little brain within the business, where you're collecting all this information, you're improving the process, improving the system, and you just get better and better over time. And I think that's one of the biggest things I would do differently from day one, and probably why now I'm such a big advocate of process and system and discipline around how we deliver the standard of work. So I just wanted to share that with you. I'm gonna do my best to keep everybody updated. I think it was really interesting kind of recording the video for the first time and putting myself out there, and I was really overwhelmed by so much just great feedback. So I appreciate everybody who took the time to do it. I'm just gonna try and be as open and honest as I can be, and just genuinely authentic, and trying to figure out what I what I do next. And like I said, if I can kind of help some people along the way, if one other person is kind of going through something similar or can take something from my own experience, then I feel pretty good. So that's all. Hope everybody's well, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.